It's the Craggy Rugby Podcast. It's the midweek edition prior to the Edinburgh home game. And on our call tonight, I've got regular William Davis.
Good evening, Alan.
And Danny Deegan's back after a little hiatus.
How's it going, guys?
Okay, William, we'll go, as always, we'll go straight into our press conference highlights now. You can get the full press conference on our Patreon page at patreon.com/CraggyRugby. But who were you talking to today?
Dennis Buckley and Andy Friend were up today, obviously talking about last week, this week, and Europe.
I think initially after the game was pretty frustrated in the dressing room. I think it was one of those games that was sort of separated by one or two moments. Obviously the big one is Mike Haley's try, and obviously it was a great try and not taken away from him at all, but it was quite opportunist, and had that maybe not worked out for them and a bounce of the ball went our way, I think the results could have gone differently. So for sure we were frustrated, and we knew that we'd played to a pretty good level and did some stuff really well, and just weren't able to get the result on the back of that. I suppose then over the weekend and into yesterday, and when we can review the game, there was a lot of positives to take from it. And again, it's just about how we can sort of build on that and take the learnings from it if that sort of game happens again, how we can maybe be a little bit more clinical and get on the right side of the victory.
And looking at where Edinburgh still have more games to play, and they had a game cancelled at the weekend, so they're still theoretically chasing third place. But what do you need to do to beat them? And how do you make sure that there's no hangover from Friday night in Limerick?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, how do we beat them? I think it's, first of all, it's about matching them physically. I know it's sort of a bit of a cliche to say around rugby games, but they are a pretty direct physical team. So to match that will be vital. Obviously, again, it starts with the forwards. They've got a good set piece, and they sort of play a forward orientated game. So to sort of meet fire with fire there and try and get on top in that part of the game will give us a pretty good foundation for getting a victory off the back of it then.
I'm going to have to start and ask, how are you doing yourself? You've been in the wars a bit.
Mere flesh wound, William. I'll be back. Yeah, listen, it's probably not ideal, mate, but unfortunately accidents happen. So had the surgery, and every day gets easier from here. It's a 6 months recovery, full recovery, but I'm 2 weeks in, and on the way back.
Good stuff. You've just had the European draw, so what's your immediate reaction to that? It's Leicester away, and then it's Ospreys or Newcastle, but that would be at home.
Yeah, listen, it is what it is. It's Leicester a good side. Would have we preferred a home? Yeah, probably, but we didn't, so that's fine. Our away form this year has been very, very good, so I'm comfortable with that. I know Steve Borthwick well. I know the team that he's trying to build is an exciting young side too, so it should be a pretty good contest.
Yeah, it's the only team Connacht have never actually played in a European competition that completes the set for the statisticians out there. Friday, Munster, I suppose you've had to park that a little bit now. What's your overall on that tight loss in a really, really good game of rugby as well?
Yeah, it was a good game of rugby. I was very impressed with just our intent and our ambition and desire. I thought it was two good rugby sides going at it, very fine margins. They didn't tip our way in the end, unfortunately, but we were pretty proud of our performance. What we need to now get is that the pride in the performance and then the result at the tail end of it. But as we've talked about as a squad, we're in a healthy position. We've still got improvement left in us. So, as disappointed as we are with that, we know we've got more to come.
Edinburgh on Saturday night, it's almost in some ways a season-defining game. If it's a home game, it'll nail down this second place and it'll do the double over them. Side that Connacht have struggled against in the past. You had a really good win at Murrayfield. So how are you setting up for that? And what do you need from Connacht to get this over the line with as little drama as possible?
Yeah, listen, they're a good side, Edinburgh. I thought they were actually the form side last year that improved the most out of any of the sides last season. This year they probably haven't held that form to date anyway, so we know they're going to be tricky. We're probably looking at it through a slightly different lens, if you like, William. We've qualified for Champions Cup. We know that. We're building a squad, so we will give players opportunity who we think have deserved the right for opportunity. We're certainly going to be picking a team that we want to win in this contest, but I think it's a really good opportunity for us to provide a platform for certain individuals. So, and that's not taking anything away nor disrespecting Edinburgh at all. We'll wait to see what that side is when we put it out there. But I see these last two games as being a really good chance in a year where we haven't had a lot of rugby for certain people to give people, give them some game time and hopefully you can see, or we can see a good performance from them that they've been waiting to get the opportunity to deliver.
Well, it's good to hear Andy is okay. He didn't really want to talk about his injury, did he? So we won't spend too much time talking about it. But it's good to hear he's okay.
I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure he'll do all his rehabs. It can't be very pleasant.
No.
A nice Monty Python reference in there as well. "'Tis but a flesh wound." So.
Yes, absolutely. I was very impressed by the Monty Python reference, I have to say. So we'll have to bring a Monty Python question in the next day, William.
Fair enough. I'll work on that. Program I can't stand, but you can prompt me.
Well, the Life of Brian is one of the greatest movies of all time in my eyes. So, and of course, that "'Tis but a flesh wound" is from the
Black Knight scene.
The Black Knight scene in The Holy Grail. Anyway, Munster. Danny, we'll go to Danny first quickly because we didn't hear his thoughts. We had your thoughts after the game, William. We'll get your review in a couple of seconds. What did you think, Dan?
I think you guys really covered it well in the post match. Like it was a strange one we'd lost. Obvious disappointment with that, but there was still a good feeling about it as well. Obviously the line-out went superbly well. Stealing 6 line-outs off them is a no mean feat. But I think Munster played us well. In the second half, they had 58% territory. They managed just to keep us out of the 22. They kept us in the right area. I think that's what's kind of won them the game more than anything, and some ill discipline from Connacht. Like we conceded 15 penalties to Munster's 9, but in saying that, 4 of those penalties came in the last 5 minutes, where I think Connacht were just trying to they were really going to push the limits to just try and get that ball back to try and nab a victory, and it just wasn't coming off for them. Yeah,
and I suppose myself and Rob were pretty upbeat about it. William, was you were somewhat more disappointed with the fact that we'd lost yet again by only. Well, I suppose one of the reasons I was a little bit upbeat about it was that's the first time ever we've got 2 losing bonus points against Munster in the same season. The championship winning season, we managed to do the double on them, which was the only time we've ever done that. So to go down to Munster and grab a losing bonus point wasn't too bad as things stood.
Yeah, I thought today Dennis and Andy sort of covered that. I mean, they have to try to remain upbeat from it. The bottom line is they've got to start winning these type of games. If you keep losing them, it doesn't matter whether you lose by a point or 3 points or 4 points. It must sap you a little bit.
But if you're competitive at the rate we're being competitive this season, like we're not a team who knows how to win games. We had our one season that we did, but other than that, we're not a team who knows how to win games. But by putting yourself into position, as Porrick Harrington would say, when he was all his second place, he says, yes, but if I'm there, at some point it'll flick over. That, this is something we're not used to. This will be Andy's season, Andy friends, assuming we get a win in the last 2 games. But even if we don't, in the Pro 14, we will have a 50% winning record or better for Andy's 3 seasons. That's never happened before.
I would have said that was a bare minimum that you would need as a 50% record if you want to be competitive. I don't think you're guaranteed to flick over either. I think sides still feel they can find a way to beat Connacht, especially your Ulsters and your Munsters. Leinster are slightly different in the way they approach games against us. It's one of the reasons I'm fuming that the Rainbow Cup has come through, because we're not going to get Leinster down here. We're not going to get to go to Belfast. I think that would have been a great staging point for Connacht. They've played 4 interpros. They've won 1 of them.
Yeah.
And that looks like that's it for the season. But there was a lot to like in the way they set up to win the match. I'm not convinced about the decision not to start Alex Wooden. I find that odd. That, you know, if you have a player that's on fire, you can make reasons not to pick him, maybe based on defence or kicking or whatever it is. His job is to score tries. Connacht had chances in that game that needed to be taken. They had Munster on the run in the first 20 minutes, especially when they scored. They got back into the 22 a couple of times. They didn't seize the chance. That's where I'm thinking a Leinster would have thought, right, we're going to get another 7 points here, because these Munster were switched off. Their line out had started to fail. They weren't at it. Once they got back in, and Danny's just given us a fabulous stat there in the second half, because they changed the way they wanted to play. And that was clever. So it's one of those things. It's they got to put a line through it. They have a huge game coming up now on Saturday. In terms of it, there's a simple thing: win the game, nail down second place, do the double on Edinburgh, who are a side that Connacht have struggled against in the past, and win another home game, and then you're done. You've achieved something tangible. And then you've 1 game left before the season goes into its second phase, which is Europe and the Rainbow Cup.
Yeah, and you know, so let's as you say, let's put a line through Munster. We've done enough talking about that. So we had the Challenge Cup draw today, and it was, I predicted it weeks ago, we were going to get Leicester because we haven't played Leicester before, and the season that's in it, the one place I certainly wanted to go, and I'm sure plenty of Connacht fans who are rugby diehards would want to go, would be Welford Road, because it is one of the iconic stadiums of English rugby, and we're not going to make it, and I'm really annoyed.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's a very tough draw. I really do. Yeah. I think it could hardly have been harder. There is a great prize at the end of this, is a home quarter final against Ospreys or Newcastle. But Leicester will be a very big ask. Our record in England is appalling. I was at the last game Connacht won in England, which was in Worcester. And I was a much younger person when that happened. We've been at a lot of the games. We've been at the Gloucesters and the Sales and the Baths and the whole Northamptons and the whole caboodle.
Newcastle. God, I was at that Newcastle game when we only had 22 players instead of 23.
I've been there as well. I think it's a great chance to see something. I think it's a good run. If they get the job done on Saturday night, they've got a free play then against the Scarlets. They can rest anybody they want. They'd love to win a game in Parky Scarlets. That would be a good marker, because they're going to have to keep probably going back there.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know.
And we've never won there.
So let's, but they've then got a bit of a break. They're not in the final. Leicester will be playing away in the Premiership. Would be slightly different if there was relegation in the Premiership. They're a mid-table team at the moment. They know that they could lose their games coming up to this, slip right down to the bottom. They don't want to do that, but if they did it, they still have the safety net that they know they're not going to be relegated, and they might fancy a cut at the Challenge Cup. I mean, they're a side that a highly successful side in Europe, and it's something that's eluded them in the last number of years. But Connacht's opportunity is get the strongest side on the pitch, have a good plan. They're playing well away from home. I'm assuming, I don't think there'll be anybody at this game because I think it's going
Yeah,
to be
I don't
May.
think they open up. I don't think they open up early enough. And you just mentioned their record, and I just had a quick look at it. Their last coach to win a competition of significance, and I don't count the Anglo-Welsh Cup as is a significant trophy, was a certain Richard Cockrell, who of course is Edinburgh's coach. So there's a nice little connection there for us as well.
It certainly is, and he'll give you chapter and verse. He still has his issues about what happened at Leicester. I think he might be cheering on Connacht in that game. Maybe we should ask him.
We probably should. We probably should. Do you have anything for us on that, Dan?
Well, I'm just looking at the Premiership table. I understand it's an English side. We don't necessarily do well historically, but I'm looking at, you're saying Leicester are a mid-table side, but between themselves and Northampton, who are in 5th, there's 3 points. So these next few games are going to be huge, because you've got Newcastle, who are just above them on 29, and then London Irish are on 31 as well as Northampton. And it's all about the top 4, or the top 6 for them, So they depending on how they go. But I'm also looking at, they've got 50% winning record this season. I know it says 6, but 2 of those games were cancelled for COVID, so it was 1 win, 1 loss. But they don't look like they're scoring that many tries. Only 24 tries they've scored. They've conceded 28. They've only got 2 try bonuses, no losing bonus points. I don't know.
They're a team in transition, because Steve Borthwick has taken over from Jordan Murphy, and Jordan Murphy had the worst winning ratio of a Leicester coach ever. They haven't had a winning ratio from a full-time coach since Richard Cockrell. Because Aaron Major was only a caretaker. He had 58%, but he was only a caretaker. He had 12 games. Yeah, they struggled under Matt O'Connor. They struggled under Jordan Murphy, but Steve Borthwick, ex-Bath and Saracens, bringing in, a different viewpoint to Leicester, who would be one of the giants of the English game. They could be quite dangerous, and could be something that they want to win. They haven't won a European competition since 2002. That's a long time for a club like Leicester.
It's going to be fascinating just to see how they approach this. I agree. It's very congested in the Premiership, but the fact that you lose a couple of games that you're not going to be booted out of it probably frees up mentally how you can look at this as a single game.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, they're going to look at our record in big tight games, and they're going to think, yeah, this is Connacht. They're at home. We'll beat them. That's the only way they'll see it. They'll say all the right things, but deep down, that's
what their fans think. All right, that's what their fans think. Great. Yeah. They said they were like, and our fans were aware of the fact that they'd never played us, and we're sort of going, well, at least we're playing them at home. I'd hate to have played them away and we couldn't travel. And I thought, well, what do you think we feel like? But they also have some serious players still in that team. You talk about Dan Cole and Ellis Gaines. That's a hell of a front row. Two props to have in your front row to be in there. And they've got 4 current Argentinian players in Montoya, the hooker. Like that front row, Montoya, Cole, and that's a world-class front row. That's going to cause us all sorts of trouble. I know our guys are great, but holy cow, that's going to be something else.
Yeah, it's great. That's what you want. That's the whole point of these competitions, is to see something a bit different.
And then you got Nandolo. You got Nemani Nandolo, who didn't play against us. We were looking forward to seeing him from Montpellier last year, and he didn't turn up. He was injured, but he's with Leicester this year, so maybe we'll get to see him this year. I'm sure the wingers won't want to see him, but there you go.
And isn't it wonderful that the English Premiership has a top 6 and they have playoffs and stuff? Sides that have come 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th get to play for something, rather than the way the Pro 14 has been finished, where you've got a final on March the 27th between 2 understrength teams who are really focusing on Europe. Johan van Graan was very honest during the week. He said Munster will have to cut their cloth. Ireland will have played 2 games with a short turnaround. They'll have played Scotland on Sunday and they will play England the following Saturday. A lot of those players won't be available. Leinster will be the same, but hey, feel the width.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we're into the Rainbow Cup because they're advertising it. It appears to be going to happen, but nobody knows how or
when,
where or when.
Or why.
Okay, you went there with the why. I was going to do the why. You bet me to it. I'm
a bit wound up about this. I thought Andy Friend answered it brilliantly today. He just said, well, I guess it's something like, I guess it's happening. We don't know.
Yeah.
This is a competition that starts on the 17th of April. We don't know the conferences or pools. We don't know who's playing who. We've no fixtures. We know the teams. We don't know where the South African teams are going to play. I just think Dan McFarlane pretty much has said what I said, that, Ulster deserve coming second, having played and will have played 16 games, deserve a playoff. Connacht, if they finish second or third, let's say they finish second, deserve a playoff. I think ask the fans, what would the fans want? Would they prefer Connacht to play out their season, 2 more interpros, some really tough games, still finish second, get themselves a nice home game against whoever finishes third in the other conference, and maybe get into a semi-final? But that's all been taken away for a competition that we still know nothing about. There's a nice ad on TV. I've seen it a few times. It's very impressive. It tells the story of who's coming. But we know nothing. We've no story to tell the people listening to this because we've been given nothing to bite down on. But how do you ask Munster and Leinster to focus on this if they're in a Champions Cup quarter-final, semi-final? How do you ask Connacht and Ulster? Yeah, they've got into the quarter-finals of the Champions Cup. Guess what? They're in the semis now. They're playing each other.
Yeah.
You don't know how that draw is going to go. I'm thinking ahead here. I'm hoping for the best, but that could happen. And then this competition is bobbing along. It's just not going to get any traction. They should have left the Pro 14 to finish out. Danny, sorry.
Sorry, no, I jumped across you there. I thought you were finishing up. You were saying, ask the fans. I have to say, I'd love to know what the fans of the other regions would like, as in Wales, Scotland, and Italy. Because, looking at the table here, the 4 Irish teams are the only ones with a plus points difference. We seem to be relishing in this kind of uncertain time, and other teams seem to be seriously struggling. You're looking at the team we're playing at the weekend. Edinburgh only have 4 wins from 12 this season. That's not a normal thing for them. It is an upside down season, but I would love to know what other teams are kind of thinking about it.
It would be fascinating to know. What I'm hearing in Wales is basically it's not getting any. There's no interest. Nobody's talking about it. They're struggling a bit to talk about the Pro 14. They're focusing on a Grand Slam.
Of course they are.
That's what's got Wales talking rugby. They've got Italy at the weekend. If they don't beat them, it'll be one of the biggest shocks ever. And then they've got
if they don't win at the weekend, it would be the biggest shock that ever happened in the 6 nations, or the 5 nations, or the 4 nations. Any of them, all the way back. If Wales don't win at the weekend,
well, never say never, but yes, and that's the whole point about the cup that I'm saying. Maybe they feel resetting will get everybody concentrated on it. I'm not convinced, and I just think
plus the fact that it's going to run into June.
Well, to be fair, the Pro 14 final was scheduled for the 19th of June. Yeah, so there's no difference there.
Yeah, fair.
It is the final though, isn't it? As in, there's no it's starting to slow down and kind of build up into the knockouts. It does have that little bit more traction rather than this brand new competition that, as you say, we don't know anything about.
Well, but the only thing we do know is there's no knockouts in it. The only knockout is the final. It's the final. There's 57 games. 56 of them are going to be pool games. You'll have one final. They've gone the same way as they've gone in the Pro 14 this year. And again, knockout rugby. Look, why are we excited about Leicester? Because it's a knockout game. Absolutely. It's a winner takes all. No, it might be the wrong winner from Connacht's perspective, but
we have a chance. We have a chance.
Exactly. You've been given a chance, and this is what you want. At this time of the year, you want a game where you know You've got to go out there. There's no bonus points. Get out there and win the damn game. And you've got a prize then of this quarterfinal at home. And then suddenly you could be in a semi-final. But I'm sorry to be so negative about it, because I'm actually positive about the South African sides coming in. But to me, set the season up with them from the start so that everybody understands what's happening.
Yeah, I agree.
And don't take away from fans the opportunity for knockout rugby, having gone through 16 conference games with a lot of difficulties. And I will say fair play to the Pro 14 organisers. They have overcome major problems. They had a problem last weekend. Edinburgh are now a side that have got so many games to catch up.
And effectively, we might as well start talking about the Edinburgh game now. That we sort of gone through the Challenge Cup and the Rainbow Cup, and we don't have any fresh injury updates from today that I could make out. So I'm assuming there isn't any major injuries. I know Colm Riley came off with a bang in the knee, but by the sounds of it, it seems okay, and it must be okay because we've allowed Stephen Cairns to pop off to Bristol for 4 weeks. Which is great for him because he needs some game time.
That's brilliant. It's fantastic. It's a real opportunity to experience a different rugby culture. Going in, he'll know a lot of the Connacht guys that are there. Absolutely. Yeah. We want players to come here, but it's also good for younger players who maybe aren't getting enough game time here. And I'd maybe like to see a little bit more of that. I think it'll expand his rugby knowledge, and I think he is a player who he's very involved in trying to improve his game.
Oh, he is. And you could see it. Like, we were at the A game at the weekend, the Eagles game at the weekend. And as the game went on, he got better and better and better. And his passing went from being okay to being absolutely spanking by the end of it. He was throwing some absolute rippers out, and they were beautiful passing. Because that was the one thing I remember seeing when I saw him first. I thought, wow, this lad's got a good pass.
He took his try well as well.
He did, yeah. He spotted that gap and went through it like greased lightning. So yeah, the Bristol guys are going to get a nice little player there. Let's hope he isn't too nice over there and they keep hold of him. But anyway, Edinburgh, they've got something to play for. They can still finish third. They've got more to play for than we do, from the point of view, like we're in Europe next year because we've guaranteed ourselves at least third, but they can still make third because, as you say, they have 2 games in hand. One of them is against Benetton. They'd like to think they could win that. Having said that, they have a whole heck of a lot of Scottish guys playing Ireland at the weekend. So, they could be in trouble from that point of view. But we're expecting a win here. I'm taking it, Danny.
Yeah, I think so. Just the fact that they do have guys, a depleted squad with the Scottish internationals gone. History say we shouldn't be expecting a win. We only have a 41% winning ratio at home when playing Edinburgh.
Is it that bad?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it is that low. We really have not done well against Edinburgh for a long, long time. But in saying that, the last 6 games, it's been a 50-50. We've won 3, lost 3.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, one of Connacht's best performances of the season was the away win in Edinburgh. It's a very unusual situation for them. However, they might be struggling in this competition. They are actually in the round of 16 of the Champions Cup.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think they, knowing Richard Cockerell, he will be telling them in his own inimitable style, we probably couldn't broadcast, to get out there and get into it for next season. He doesn't want a season where they are in the Champions Cup this year, but they finish up next season in the Challenge Cup because they couldn't get into the top 3. Glasgow are in the Challenge Cup with Connacht. It's one of the teams we couldn't play in the round of 16. That's a big prize for them. It would mean they'd have to beat Connacht to start with, and they'd have to keep going, and they'd have to catch up. And I'm not sure where they're going to play Benetton now. That game might actually have to be played. I don't know when it'll be. It might have to be played, but where is it going to be played?
Yeah, where are they going to play? They could probably play it the day before the final.
that would be the only option. Our nemesis COVID, of course, is all part of this.
It's all still there, yeah.
But I don't think Edinburgh will come here and lie down. They'll be smarting over what happened earlier on in the season. they'll have Richard Cockrell in their ear. And I think Connacht have to be very careful after last Friday that you don't get one of these games where they're a little bit switched off. They're still a bit down in Thomond Park and they're not quite sure what happened there. They just need to go out there and I think play the same brand of rugby. I think get width. We saw in the A game, width, get it out to your fast men. It's not about taking a risk, but it's about backing your skill set.
Yeah.
And I thought if they do that, then I think they have enough to beat Edinburgh, who may feel that there is, if they go behind and the pressure comes on, and they might think, well, look, this season is done and dusted. You don't know what's in the players' heads. But there could be there'd be young guys there then as well who want to show the coach and the coaching team and their teammates, look, we're you guys might have not got the job done. We're going to get it done. So this is a toughie, and the weather forecast I think doesn't look fantastic.
Great. I've just brought it up there because Dennis mentioned it today. I've never heard a player talk about the weather forecast for the weekend before. I thought, well, it must be pretty bad.
Well, I think they might have learned their lesson. From that Ulster game, that they did take a good bit of ribbon from that. They got it so wrong. I think they've really got on, and this is one of their major points during the week now.
I think it's become kind of important because the brand of rugby they want to play does get determined by the weather. The both Friday night in Thomond Park and the A game on Saturday were played in really good conditions. The pitch at the sports ground on Saturday was immaculate. It was quite hard. We saw some balls bouncing and really, surprising people. So they have to be aware of that, and they need a plan B. And I suppose Dennis Buckley's a wily old campaigner, and I suspect he's thinking, well, it could be plan A, or it might come down to the 8 forwards having to go grunt ball to make sure to hold on to this. They want this prize. It's
absolutely.
They absolutely do. And I think if they play, they'll get it. I think they'll beat Edinburgh.
All right. So William thinks they're going to win. Daniel, what do you think?
I think we will. I think we've got enough. I think we've done enough this season to show that we've got such a good attacking threat. Edinburgh have only scored 22 tries this season. Connacht have scored 46. So we've found a way of scoring, and that was just something I was trying to point back to when I was talking about Leicester, that they are conceding tries, and we've figured out how to score them. Something that will work if it's going to be a bad day, something that's going to work well is Edinburgh Scrum. They've won 30 scrum penalties to our 19. They have an extremely strong scrum, but their lineout does. They have a decent lineout on their own ball. They've 87% success rate, but they've only stolen 6, where we've stolen 20. So I definitely think that's something that we can be looking at again.
Yeah, well, one of the questions Dave asked, and you won't have heard it in this pod, but if you want to go and catch it, the full press conference is available on patreon.com/CraggyRugby, where Dave asked Dennis specifically about the penalties and the scrum penalties, and Dennis gives a pretty good answer, and it's probably worth checking out. I know you might have to pay a couple of bob for it, but these podcasts take a little bit of time, take a lot of time, and take a little bit of money. So if you can help us out, we'd really appreciate it. We'll have our little mini pod at the end of the week where William will grab hold of one of the coaches after the team has been picked, and you'll get information as to why they've picked who they've picked on it. But it sounds of what Andy was saying today, might be a few changes this week with some younger lads getting chances this week, William.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you, who would you have partnering Gavin Thornbury in the second row, because Ultan Delan has gone back to Ireland. Bundy Aki, of course, gone back to Ireland. Dave Heffernan. So I'm assuming that Shane Delahunt will come in to start.
Yeah, I'd love to see, after the way Cian Prendergast played again, fantastic game for the A's. He was excellent. Of course, Niall Murray's never let us down. So, and of course, there's Oisin Dowling there as well. So there's quite a bit of choice there, William, for the second row. It'll be fascinating. Yeah,
it is. And this is the whole point of these A games, and the fact that there is real depth and these guys all want to play. So, that's a big help. It was an impressive performance by the A team. And again, if you want to hear what Lindley McKenzie had her thoughts on that game, and Dave Finn, we have that up on our Patreon site as well, where we got the thoughts, the halftime, the
before halftime and after match thoughts on what was a really good display, especially when we went 2 scores down with 15 or 20 minutes to go, to show the guts and determination and the definite skill level. Check out, it's on YouTube. Go and check that last try out. It's just brilliant.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. There's so much going on in that, and it's, so that's why I'm feeling good about if you can play that sort of rugby. I think that's how you beat Edinburgh. Very dogged side, as Danny said, they only won 4 games this season. That's a really poor return for them.
It is,
and I actually think that Europe is where they would be desperate to get out of this round of 16. Racing away, that's a big chance for them to go and probably get thrashed.
Okay. So let's draw this podcast to an end as our Zoom call almost finishes and when we run out of time, because we don't quite have enough money to pay for the full on Zoom. We've got our 40-minute limit on this, so we'll see. Again, any and all help, and if you want to tell people about us, that's just as good as well. Let people know that we exist. Bye, folks.
Loose, cut it loose. Break out or nothing changes. Sad and confused. Don't wait until